Welcome to One for the Road. I'm Devvy Kid and your commentator. One for the Road was developed and created to help the busy commuter and Americans who don't have access to the internet find out what Congress and the media won't tell you.
This segment is on the Department of Education and why it must be abolished. I know, this is going to send twitters. The Federal Department of Education was made a part of the President's cabinet by New World Order facilitator Jimmy Carter. Prior to that, America had the finest education system in the world. In 1980, Ronald Reagan promised that if elected, he would get this unconstitutional department abolished. That promise was abandoned after his election. While campaigning for his doomed-to-lose bid for the presidency, Bob Dole said on September 9, 1996, while in Georgia, quote, "We're going to cut out the Department of Education," unquote. At that time, the GOP presidential platform read in part, "Our formula is as simple as it is sweeping. The federal government has no constitutional authority to be involved in school curricula or to control jobs in the workplace. That is why we will abolish the Federal Department of Education, end federal meddling in our schools, and promote family choice at all levels of learning. We therefore call for prompt repeal of the Goals 2000 program and the School to Work Act of 1994, which put new federal controls as well as unfunded mandates on the states. We further urge that federal attempts to impose outcome or performance-based education on local schools be ended," unquote. Of course, just the opposite has taken place, and in fact, the goals for creating the new communist man was given a huge boost with President Bush's deceptive No Child Left Behind program. As for the repeal of the School to Work Act of 1994, Counsel on Foreign Relations, Kingpin Henry Hyde, thankfully who's retired, explained it this way, quote, "When carried to its logical extreme, it chooses careers for every American worker." This should send chills down your spine, ladies and gentlemen. Children's careers will be chosen for them by workforce development boards and federal agencies at the earliest possible age. Statewide workforce development boards have formed to study which labor skills are needed in each state to determine human resources training requirements. Of course, this will decide also where these human resources will reside, unquote. This is a blueprint for communism. It is chilling to say the least, and it gets worse when one reads President Bush's executive order signed June 20th, 2001, titled 21st Century Workforce Initiative. The blueprint for forced labor is now being implemented quietly while parents and politicians scream, "More money for education!" Essentially, they are asking to pay for the rope to hang their own children. Most Americans believe communism is dead, but nothing could be further from the truth, and one of the major goals of the propagators of global communist tyranny has always been to get control of America's education system. What better way to reach the unwashed masses than through a federal Department of Education? The 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto reads, quote, "Free education for all children in public schools," unquote, and this is one of the highest goals of communitarians. Jerry Lynn Ball, author of Masters of Seduction, explains, quote, "The communitarian efforts to take over the American education system began in 1918 after World War I. Early in the 20th century, John Dewey, the father of progressive education, worked with internationalists to transform America into a communitarian society. Dewey held that the basic goal of education is the eradication of the child's individualistic traits and the development of a spirit of social cooperation and community life. Dewey did not want the child to think at all, but to learn to live and work within the narrow, primitive bounds of communitarian vocabulary and thought pattern. According to the testimony of Norman Dodd, the staff director of the 1953 Congressional Special Committee to investigate the tax-exempt foundations, the minutes of the Carnegie Foundation revealed that the trustees of the foundation decided right after World War I that they, quote, "must control education in the United States," unquote. They joined together with the Rockefeller Foundation and created a plan to take control of domestic and international education. Dodd interviewed and Rowan Gaither, president of the Ford Foundation, and discovered how he operated the foundation under strict instructions and orders to the effect that we should make every effort to so alter life in the United States that we can be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union, unquote. The Federal Department of Education is unconstitutional. And when I say unconstitutional, that means it's against the law of the land, the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. It's not just some word. Words have meaning. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution does not authorize Congress to legislate education within the independent sovereign states who are themselves a republican form of government. There is only one solution to stopping the brainwashing of America's children, and that is for the states of the Union to completely sever any relationship with the Federal Department of Education. Most Americans don't have the financial resources to put their children in private or Christian schools, and because so many mothers have been forced into the workplace to basically work to pay taxes, they can't homeschool. However, the people of the states can do the same thing the great folks down in Tennessee did over their fight against a state income tax, which they won. Put the heat on the State House and the state legislatures. The Federal Department of Education must be booted out of the states. Public schools must return to educating children with the basics and stop all social engineering and communitarian indoctrination. To continue down the same path of tossing trillions of dollars at the Federal Department of Education is to guarantee transforming America's precious children into the new communist man. We must stop this madness, and I hope all parents think about this.